As extortion-related violence continues, community members in Surrey have expressed outrage this week over the BC RCMP's comments refusing to call the ongoing issue a crisis. The head of the BC Extortion Task Force, John Brewer, doubling down on his comments this week before making an apology. Joining us to talk more about the urgency needed to combat this issue is the president of the World Sikh Organization, Danish Singh. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So when you heard the comments, I guess what went through your head? What did the community think?
So it was kind of really shocking, and I tried to look more into it because that couldn't have been the comment that it's not a crisis, and when I looked into it, and on some level he was trying to defend the RCMP and defend their efforts. But that's part of the problem, where now everyone's just kind of trying to defend their own record and blame each other. You have different levels of government, city, provincial, and federal, and you have the RCMP. And it's all just kind of turned into a blame game, and the community is just left wondering, is anyone actually tackling the issue?
The Premier also commented on the situation, and as well as Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke. She's actually calling for a national person to sort of watch, a national commissioner. Do you think that's what's needed? Something more like that?
Yeah, so it seems like right now all the pressure is just being put on the RCMP and police to kind of, catch these criminals and everything, which is really important. But, how much can we expect of them when at the same time our highest levels of government are, whining and dining with Indian officials who RCMP has alleged are involved in these. And, on one hand you have this RCMP report coming out that has all these findings, and on the other hand you have Premier AB downplaying that and saying, it just came from a bunch of news articles, which is kind of an insult to the RCMP as well. On one hand you have our National Security Advisor saying we went to India and we told them to stop and we discussed these concerns with them. And then on the other hand, we're allowing the Indian High Commissioner to go on media and say, this is not an Indian issue, we have no responsibility in this, and they're not being held accountable. So it is a police response, but we're not seeing any sort of response from any other level of government.
So I guess then, is the community not feeling like they're being heard?
The community feels abandoned. The community feels like everyone's just trying to get their own points and work on their own record, while not actually sitting down and listening to the community's concerns and addressing these issues head on, and putting the resources behind them that it needs.
Now, we heard last week about one family, or one person in particular at least, who fired back. Are you hearing more comments like that from the community? Are people wanting to sort of take matters into their own hands more because they're not feeling supported? That
is definitely something that I've heard. And this is kind of what we'd been warning about as well. If this is dealt head on, people can't feel that they can trust law enforcement, that they can trust police. The Sikh community, the Punjabi community is not one to just sit down and take these kind of threats. So, the responsibility of that, we don't want lawlessness, we don't want chaos out there. So the responsibility falls on government and law enforcement to make sure that doesn't happen and to preempt that.
Are any people, again, we've heard that people are leaving the community or talking about moving. Have you heard that? Those concerns?
I personally haven't heard that, but I wouldn't be surprised. But, at the same time, we did mostly hear about this issue in Surrey, Brampton, Edmonton, Calgary, but we just had events in Montreal the past couple of months, and we started hearing of these there too. So we don't want people to move, and even that, how effective will that be if it's not being addressed where it's happening?
So overall, I guess, what are you calling for? What would be maybe a potential solution?
So overall, this needs to be a coordinated, all government levels of response, and not just being put on the police. So we need more police resources, but we also need the government to hold, the perpetrators accountable and have some public acknowledgement that is India cooperating with the investigations, or is there any kind of public acknowledgement there? And otherwise it just seems like there's a carte blanche to do anything while we just try to, on the ground, to try to address this on a police level.
Norl Pinsky was asked by one of our reporters yesterday, will they bring more police on board? And they suggest they're looking at that. And he even mentioned maybe military. Would that be something that the police would look at? They didn't commit to that, but is that sort of the level even that you think that might be needed here?
Again, it comes down to, you can have more boots on the ground and you can have more military and police, but if you're not tackling the head of the snake, so to speak, it's like putting out a million fires, and more fires are popping up. So you have to go to the source of the issue, you have to go to the root of the issue, and defend Canada's sovereignty. Prime Minister Carney made a speech yesterday, or the other day, that everyone's talking about, in reference to the U.S. mostly, but in changing times like this, we have to defend our sovereignty from any country, and if we don't, then really Canada is at risk as a whole. So that's really what it comes down to.